Hey guys, brand new podcast. I'm trying to put out as much content as possible because I know for a fact I am gobbling up left and right. So we got another podcast. Just released Patton Oswalt the other day. We got Mark Norman coming up, but today it's Jesus Trejo. Jesus has a Showtime special airing this Friday called Stay at Home Son. Put it on your DVR, tell your friends, spread the word. Listen, Jesus is not a huge star with a huge following online. So make sure to blow him up and put him over with your friends. Tell your friends about it this weekend. Watch it. Share it on social media. Do everything you can to help him up. He is a great guy. We talk a lot about his life. Now, I know Jesus very well. He's been touring with me for the past 4 years. So a little bit of this is me leading him into questions that I've already heard the answer of, but I want you to hear it. He didn't end up talking about this, but Jesus lives with his two parents. You'll see this in the special, and he is taking care of them. He is, I think, the sole breadwinner. And they both have medical issues, and he is there with them. And when he goes on the road with me, he has to hire a nurse to come in. So he doesn't make a ton of money when he disappears out on the road. He is an awesome fucking dude, and he is a fantastic comedian. It's a great podcast. You're going to love it, and I hope you love his special. So like I said, word of mouth really does wonders for these specials. So tell your friends, spread the word. Just take a second, put it on your Facebook, put it on your social media, and blow him up. He's a great fucking dude. I absolutely love him. Big announcement coming out later, I think next week, about some possible road dates that we're going to be accomplishing at the end of June. I am very fucking excited. I can't say anything yet, but the second I can, you will hear it from me. Go to Bert.com to get merch. We got the Whiskey Cock Glock shirts, cups. We got so much new merch coming out. Ooh, we just released the Georgia one. Notorious B.I.G. was the street name, that joke. We made a shirt with Georgia when she was a baby with the Notorious B.I.G. crown. It's a great fucking shirt. So yeah, check out Bert.com. Have a great day. Stay safe with your family. I'm going to try to lose some weight. I'm getting on the treadmill right now. I'm in a great mood, everybody. I boozed, by the way, pretty hard this weekend. Memorial Day weekend, 3 days, back to back to back. But we're back on the wagon. So tonight, it's movie night with the girls on the treadmill, burn some calories. What are you, a fucking lifestyle brand? Bert, just do comedy and do podcasts. Shut the fuck up about your working out. What are you, Kevin Hart? No, you're fucking fat Bert Kreischer. You like how that's how my brain talks to me? Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, my buddy, stand-up comedian, stay-at-home son, with a special aptly named airing this Friday on Showtime. Stay-at-home son, please DVR it. Put your hands together for my brother, Jesus Trejo.
From a secret remote location, you know? No, I'm at a WeWork. I'm in one of those little booths or whatever. I've been coming here to get work done in last week and then this week for the special.
How are your parents holding up?
They're good. I mean, you know, as far as Corona stuff, they've been just indoors. We've been taking care of each other, you know, quarantining. I just come here. There's nobody here in this building, which is perfect. I saw 2 people today, and I'm like, oh wow, people. You know,
it's just crazy. I've been really good this weekend. You could tell people's guards were down, like they were just like whatever. I ordered ice to do a polar plunge, and the guy just came up and like shook my hand, and I was like, okay. I saw. By the way, I saw Ron the other day because we're talking about the tour, and he brought a bus over and he just dapped me up immediately. I was like, hey, Ron.
What the fuck, Ron?
It's just Ron. He's like, come on, man. Come on.
Right.
We had it. We were sharing it back and forth.
That's how you know somebody has ultimate confidence when they go in for a handshake. It's like, oh, this guy's confident, man. I want to have a handshake confidence in 2020, man.
So when's the special air?
May 29th, Friday. So this Friday at 9 p.m.
Fuck yes, man! Congratulations.
Thank you so much, man. I'm excited, dude. This is
what. These are the questions I did this to Patton. These are the questions that I wanted asked to me when I did my special.
Okay. Ooh, okay.
Because I love deconstructing what we do, and for everyone who doesn't know, you've been on the road. Me and you have been on the road together for what now? Like
a few years.
It's got to be. I was still doing clubs when we were doing the road.
The first time I worked with you was New Year's, and that was when you uploaded the machine.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You worked. That's right. We worked
It was
together.
New Year's.
Oxnard. That was
Oxnard.
the lowest part of my career.
Really? That was the low? Because I mean, you had phenomenal shows. You had great turnouts. It was
no. The turnouts were shit because I was guaranteed a lot of money, and I was like, oh, I knew they lost money on that fucking weekend.
Oh wow.
Yeah. God damn it. So you've been with me for both my specials, Secret Time and for
Secret. Yeah.
But I love deconstructing comedy. I'm obsessed with comedy. So what joke on here are you most proud of?
What joke am I most proud of?
Which joke would it mean a lot to you if, say, you're walking through the store and say Sebastian walked up and he's like, hey, man, I saw the special. You know what my joke I loved? This one. You'd be like, you got my favorite joke. Nice.
Okay. I think it would be it would be in the middle. I kind of had like a real moment where I talk about my dad and taking over the family business. When my dad got sick and my mom got sick, and it was just like I have this joke where I talk about I wish I could be as stubborn as my father one day. Like I was there when my dad got diagnosed with colon cancer, and my dad doesn't speak English, so I go with him to the doctor, and the doctor slides over the results, and there's like a picture of the colonoscopy. And look, I'm no doctor, but he showed me the picture, and there was a black dot. I'm like, that's cancer for sure, And he's like, he explained it, and I explained it to my dad, and then my dad grabs the paper and he slides it back to the doctor, and he's like, that's not mine. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, he said that you have cancer. And then the doctor was like, look, I can assure you, we can, we'll do the surgery, whatever we need. And my dad's like, that's not mine. And so my dad, to this day, like he's cancer free, but to this day, I'm like, people ask him, how'd you beat cancer? He's like, I didn't have it. It's like, to be that stubborn is what I hope to be. And I explain that, and me going and working for like my dad and asking him like, Dad, what was your dream? Like mowing lawns couldn't have been your dream. He's like, well, you got to sleep to have a dream. I never slept. I always had 2 jobs. So I work hard so you can have a dream. And that to me, it's like not really a joke, but it's so real that I'm like, if people have that takeaway from my special, I think I succeeded in telling my story, dealing with my mom's, health issues, the brain tumor that she has and getting power of attorney and, my mom being very proud because she thinks I'm a powerful attorney. I'm like, oh no, I have power of attorney, Mom. Just real stuff. It's like all the jokes are based in reality. So I think if somebody were to kind of have that take away from my special and see the realness, because in the middle there is that kind of real part to it. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. Hey, say hi to Jesus.
Hi, Leanne.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
The special airs Friday.
No way.
Yeah.
Showtime.
That's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Are you guys doing well? You guys holding up good? Quarantine?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fucking, it's, I gotta be honest with you, man. It's fucking not, it sounds horrible, but it's not that bad. Cause I haven't been with the girls like this forever. So I think forever. I mean, 72 days, 71 days ever. I've never been with my children this much. So
That's
it's been nice.
Cool.
And
there's always
like
a silver lining
where they're going to go off and be high schoolers and not want to be around me. So,
yeah. No, I think there's always a silver lining. And I think it's nice. Everyone's so caught up in the rat race that it's like, hey, this is some cool time to, be with family and kind of strengthen a relationship. And, we're so busy and doing this, doing that it's like, even though we're close to our families, it's like, I found that there's a new level to get closer to your family, get to know them. There's certain things that I found out about my parents. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that I wouldn't have known that had I not been around this much. And it's cool. Yeah. I like it.
I think it's really cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. Good to see you, Leanne. Always a pleasure.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, baby.
Can I take any of this crap in the house?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Dirty dishes.
I know.
Is this one dirty? No.
Yeah, no, I'm still working. Hey, by the way, we can't let Izzy touch anyone else because then we might as well sniff Ray's balls.
Oh, come on.
Dogs transmit coronavirus.
Silly.
Anyway, it stinks for me because This is a tough interview to do because I know so much about you that I want to share with you. So I'm going to ask you some questions that I already know the answer.
Yeah, we'll have fun.
People listening to know about you.
Okay.
Because you're one. We have had very, very, very different life paths.
Very different. Let's get close to the mic when we say that. Very different. This segment is called Very Different.
I remember you telling me about, we were walking through a sporting goods store and you talked about your dad getting you a brand new mountain bike.
That was such a that was such a crazy thing because for years I wanted a bike and I had these rundown bikes and my dad is looking at me like, damn it, my son's out there with this bicycle with square wheels. I mean, it was like a cartoonish, horrible looking bicycle. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to work hard and get him a bike. So he buys me this a red mountain bike, beautiful mountain bike. And, he presents it to me. He's like, ta-da, kind of thing. Happy birthday. And I'm like, ooh, the record scratches. I'm like, I can't go outside with this thing. And my dad was very confused. I mean, I feared for my life having that in my neighborhood. Explain
it to people like myself who go, why not?
Because, I grew up in Eastside Long Beach. And at the time, this is, in the 90s, it was just bad. There was a lot of, gang activity and, it's like to see a kid riding a brand new bike. I mean, that was easy. That's like taking a mountain bike from a kid. That's what it was. Yeah. So I feared for my life and I had this girl bike, right? And I loved it. I had this girl bike. It was all bad looking. The wheels were white. And the reason I love this girl bike was because if you hit it in reverse, you can stop the wheel. You can like $1 million in that. People, like kids, would make fun of me. And I'm like, yes, thank you. They're never going to want to steal this bike. I felt so good. It's like, he got a girl bike. Look how ugly it looks. And I was like, oh, come on. And I kind of hated it. But deep down inside, I was like, thank God it's an ugly bike and nobody wants it. Because if they stole it, I would know that that's mine and no one would ride it because nobody would want to deal with those repercussions. So when I have a brand new mountain bike, I have a death sentence in my eyes. So I wouldn't ride it. My dad would lose his cool, be like, why aren't you riding? At the end of it, we ended up getting rid of the bicycle. This is how untouched the bicycle was. Those little rubber whiskers that tires have when they're brand new?
Yeah.
It still had that. We grew up different, Bert.
But I don't think I understood. I'm trying to get a pen.
Yeah.
Down all my questions that are already loaded. We grew up different, and I don't think I still to this day at times am shocked by life experiences you had where I just didn't, where I didn't have the insight, or I was like, huh?
Yeah.
Or like the time you talked about getting robbed with your mom and she didn't speak English and the guy was tell that story.
Yeah, that's in the special too. And it's like, it was so cool. We were living off of Pine at the time and there was a grocery store there called Lucky's. I don't know if you were familiar with if you had Lucky's where you're from, but we were going to the grocery store and it was just me and my mom were hanging out, having a good time. And this guy rose up. He rose up and he was on a bike now that I remember. And, he gunned out and he's like, hey, give me the money. And my mom doesn't speak or understand English. So I had to translate. My mom was like, what does he want? So I was an accomplice to the robbery, Imagine helping in the robbery of your own mother, like to look your own sweet mother in the eyes. And she's like, what does he want? It's like, well, if the gun isn't telling, it's like he wants money, the dinero kind of thing. And, that's when I took 2 steps back. It's like, you could take it from here, Mom. I don't have money.
What is that? What is that like? What is it? I know it's fun. Like we both laugh about that right now because as comics, I think we take those situations and
it's a coping mechanism.
But what was that like?
It was terrible.
Like as a kid to go home after being robbed?
My mom was crying. I mean, the reality of it, it's like, yeah, we make it funny, but the reality of it is my mom got robbed. We go home and she's crying. She can't even get words out. My dad's like wondering what the hell's going on. And, I kind of have to explain. And there's a level of like seeing my father let down is like, what did you do? It's like, I'm a kid. What am I going to do? And it's like, he had a gun. I'm a kid. He's a grown man. Like, what am I going to do? And he's like upset. And then, he kind of went out and kind of looked for the guy, to see if he can do his part, to come be like, hey, why are you picking on a woman and with a kid going to the grocery store? Like, pick on someone your own size kind of thing. But
yeah,
my dad was upset, but it's like we went through a whole lot. Even like living at that address, the Pine location. I mean, we went through so much. I saw my dad get robbed. Like, and I think I learned so much from my folks and how they handled, things that would happen, like obstacles that come up in life. Like I saw my dad get his lawn equipment stolen, the whole thing, and him. Not crying about it. Him just going, all right, well, I got to figure out how to work. So imagine having your whole business stolen from you. Every lawnmower, like the whole works. So he has nothing. My dad had a cruiser bike. He got some money. He got an old weed whacker, and he had a rake, and he put him on this bike, and he pedaled to the location of the houses that he could get to, and he would weed whack and sweep the grass, and that's what he would do. They helped him out. His boss that he had at the construction company helped him out to get some machinery back. But eventually, the people he worked for found out about it, and they paid him a little early, and he was able to get his machines back one by one, and eventually got his business running. But here's a guy who's resilient. I mean, that's the definition of resilient. It's like a Mexican boxer. You don't step backwards. You move forward. Even if you're getting knocked, you move forward. And the pacing is like you move forward and everything else will be taken care of. And that, I think I learned so much from my dad. I mean, he was a hard ass, but I mean, I'm so grateful for those stories.
Yeah, your dad. Tell him how you came about. Like, tell the story of your parents getting together, and because I think because you hang out in the throes of my fans, and my fans are pretty fucking white. And they're pretty like middle America, like they're like, and sometimes you gotta feel like a fish out of water when I know a lot about you. By the way, more than I know about a lot of people. Like I'm not really interested in a lot of people. But tell them about like how your parents got together and how you came about and then the kind of backlash that is Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, If I leave anything out because I'm shy, please, prompt me. But
don't worry, I will.
Yeah. So my parents met on the circuit. I call it the circuit because my dad was, mowing lawns and work construction in like Palos Verdes, really nice, rich area. So he worked construction there during the mornings, and then in the afternoons he would mow lawns. And my mom was a nanny. She lived with a couple families. She moved house to house, taking care of their kids, cleaning houses, that kind of thing. And, one day, story has it, my mom's, cleaning a window and my dad's mowing a lawn. He looks up, sees my mom waves, and here we are, have baby Jesus, and, so yeah, they have me, and it's like, it's such a crazy thing. Like my parents weren't supposed to have me, basically, my dad was married and, had this whole family in Mexico, and
he was he was working to send them money, right?
Yeah, he was here. He was, he was making a living for himself, but also helping his family back home. And, so he gets with my mom, and, they have me, and, there's some problems to be had there, when you have a kid out of wedlock, and, they both, got disowned from their families, and, they were basically kicked out. It's, and especially in my culture, brings great shame to have a kid out of wedlock, not being married, and especially under these circumstances with, a married man, and things happen. I mean, it is what it is. And they got disowned, and they ended up kind of raising me in this van, which later was this, the van that, my dad used to work. You know, he had all his machineries there. It was an old 1972 Chevy van, two-tone, deli mustard on top, yellow, and then white on bottom. And then on the left side, there was a big hole that my dad patched up with, they call it bando, right?
Yeah.
So he patched it up, never bothered painting it. So there was like a pink pimple on the left side, it looked like a boil. But that was a van. I mean, that was a van where I got raised. And, you know, eventually, you know, my dad was able to get a place for us. And, you know, later the families kind of came together. Like, well, my mom kind of was like, you know, let's put that behind us, and forgave the whole situation. But, you know, my dad, you know, struggled with that. And to this day, it's kind of a thing of, you know, kind of, I'm kind of the kid that threw everything, you know, when shit hit the fan.
Is that why they call you Jesus? Because of Jesus Christ? Kind of how it was born?
I think where it's like, you know, I'm pregnant, it's like, Jesus, you know, kind of thing. And it's like, it's like, all right, no, they just, you know, my mom was going to have another kid, and, you know, she lost a baby, and she prayed that if she could have this one, she would name it Jesus. And, you know, here we are.
Do you ever wish you had a brother or a sister?
Sure. Yeah. It's like, you know, being an only child it has its advantages, but man, like having a brother, like it's cool, man. I look at like people who I grew up with and they got siblings and, you know, that kind of thing. I'm like, man, that's cool. Cause either you get along or you don't, but either way you have somebody to not get along with.
Yeah. But, and it would have been like, I mean,
you're close to your siblings, right?
What? Yeah, I'm really close.
Yeah, that's the best. Like your kids having an aunt, you know, like that's cool. It's like if I have kids, it's like, all right, cool. You know.
Yeah, I feel like especially like growing up as you did, where your parents were a little older than you, and you were single, and you were a single kid. It would have been cool to have someone to kind of like bounce life's hardships off of.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I think again, growing up in a rough neighborhood like Long Beach, if there's ever any problems, it's like, hey, man, you know, somebody wants to square it up and they can't deal with it, I'm going to go get my brother, you know? And then It's like me, I'm showing up with my old dad. It's like, Dad, they're bothering me. Like, get out of here. And it's like, no street cred is given to a kid that shows up with his dad, you know?
He's barking up a machete.
and you know, let's get into that. So it's like, I would get picked on a lot, right? I'd get picked on so much. And it was because of my height. I was always this big, goofy, lanky kid. So like the little shorter kids were trying to, you know, make a name for themselves, go beat up the big kid. But that doesn't apply when you're kids. It's like, what am I going to do? I was just taking hits and running around. But so my dad was just so embarrassed. I used to get lit up so much. And he's like, hey, I'm going to put you in boxing classes. You know, so I take boxing classes, and I thought it was a great, you know, cardio workout. I thought it was great. The community is great. I got to like talk to these great fighters. You know, they're older men that could fight. I was like, oh man, I'm basically interviewing these boxers, and they're telling me to go fuck off. Like, hey man, I'm trying to train. Hey man, you're pretty cool. How much can you bench press? Just being an annoying high schooler.
Yeah.
And so I would just train there, and eventually, you know, I started getting okay. I started sparring, and I sparred with this guy at this kickboxing gym there in Long Beach. It's off of Anaheim, and the master, his name is Omri. He came from Cambodia, very well respected. I mean, knew his stuff, had been fighting since he was a kid, basically. And so Omri was like, hey, I think it's time for you to spar. It's like, do you feel comfortable sparring? And I had done it a handful of times, and I sparred with this guy in particular, long hair, nose piercing. He would take it off, just rock and roll, badass kind of guy. Only white guy in the boxing gym. And so we're boxing. He's like 30 something. I don't know, 16, 17. And, you know, I mean, it was like $1 Million Baby. You know, the kid that pays the membership all up front, and they're like, what is he doing here? That was me. Yeah. And so I'm in there boxing. I'm sparring with the guy, and he just takes it to the next level and just roundhouse kicks me. Whoa, bah, hits me. Boom. Buckle. I hit the ground. I hear birds. I see little dots of color. I mean, I'm knocked out. And, I come back to life, and Omri's there and some of the other boxers, and they're like, "Are you all right?" I can't talk. There's no way I can possibly talk. And Omri is mad at the guy. He's like, "Hey, you hurt my students. They don't come back." He's like, "What are you like? Why are you fighting at 100% with this kid?" And so they got on his ass. They basically wanted to kick him out, and he's like kind of worried, but not really caring. And I still can't like talk. Now it's like almost time for my dad to pick me up. My dad is like honking. I guess I'm not walking out or anything. And then so he walks in and he's like, "Hey man, it's late. Let's go." And then they're like, "Hey, well, he got knocked out." He's like, "What do you mean he got knocked out?" They're like, some of the boxers there were like translating of like, "Hey, he got knocked out." He's like, "He got what?" He's like, kind of like pushing people out of the way. Let me see. And here you have, I'm my height, 10th grade. I'm my height in high school. So 6'3", Jesus just slumped over in the corner of the gym. And my dad goes up and he's like, "Let's go." And he's like, "Why can't he talk?" He's like, "He got knocked out," and he's pissed. He's like, "Who knocked him out?" And I mean, everybody just kind of like stepped aside and just like, nobody said anything, but they just stepped aside and everyone just kind of looked at this guy. He's like, "It was an accident, man." He's like, and now my dad's losing it. He's like, "F you." I mean, he's going all out. He's 5 foot, little guy. And he's losing it, man. He's losing it. He's bouncing off walls. He goes to the truck. He goes to the gardening truck. And in the gardening truck, he has this old, rusty machete. And he takes it out. Now everyone's like spilling out. They take me out there. And I'm panicking. I see my dad with the machete. He's sparking it on the ground. He's, hitting it on the ground. It's like, and I didn't know machetes could do that. It's like you hit it on the ground. It was just like, it was so surreal. Like, is this happening right now? And he's like, "Come on, man." And people are like, "Hey, man, you don't want to do that." And my dad's like, "Hey, fuck this guy." He's like, "You're going to hit my son? You're going to knock him out?" Like, I don't have kids, but I can't imagine if somebody was to hurt my kid. I mean, it's game over. Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
And so my dad was, I mean, his eyes glowed like red. It was scary. I've never seen my dad at that level of angry. And he wanted to get the guy, and they're like separating. The guy was not backing down. He's like, "Come on, man. You think you're tough with the machete?" And in my head, I'm like, my dad's gonna get the roundhouse treatment. We're both gonna, show up at home with bandages over our heads. But
I love when I wish people could see your body, because when you do an impression of your dad, it's so like, it's so visual. Oh,
come on.
Yeah.
It's always the chest pat. Only one hand. I don't know why he never did this. It was always like, "Come on, man." But it was just, it was the scariest thing ever. And, nothing ever happened. And I remember we ran into the guy like sometime later, and, he pulled up. I was helping my dad, mow some lawns there off of 10th Street and like Magnolia and Long Beach. And, the guy pulls up and he's like in this van. He was a construction worker. So he had this like work van, and he pulls up. He's like, "Hey man, you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh fuck, here we go." I'm looking to see if my dad's in sight, because this is gonna be game over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I didn't try to knock you out. You know that, right?" It was kind of like him trying to clarify things. And I'm like,
Hey, just go. Just leave right now.
Yeah. And, it stayed that way. But, that's when my dad pulled me out. I mean, one, we couldn't even afford the damn classes. It was so expensive, it was expensive for us. And yeah, there was no way my dad could sustain it. And that was the excuse he needed to pull me out. And I was like, that's it. So back to
funny. What was like, what, I know why I'm always shocked why people got into comedy. Like, because I know why I did, but I did because there was a Rolling Stone magazine about me. And I was like, I've always wanted to be a comedian. And I mean, this is, I'm really obsessed right now. Well, I don't know what we can share about what's coming up. I don't know if we've announced anything, but I'm really obsessed. I want to get back in the bus to like, I'm dying to like just bullshit with you guys. The conversations that we have where it's like, no one gets offended. You can say whatever the fuck you want. Like, I'm obsessed with like, just like how much I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it for the bus. But my point is, I understand how lucky I am in life, in just everything that people may go, wow, man, he decided to be a comedian. You're like, well, not. It wasn't like I was risking anything. Like I was written up in Rolling Stone magazine. I said I wanted to be a comedian. Then all of a sudden, like people were like, hey, man, you got to try it. Oliver Stone option the rights to your life. You should give it a shot. Everyone was like that.
Yeah.
I'm always shocked when like guys like you or Ari or like, I'm not shocked that Paulie became a comedian, right?
Right. Yeah.
But like when you or Rick Glassman or just like a regular guy who was funny, but maybe not everyone said you're the funniest guy in the world, you know? And then like what got you into comedy? What made you say, I'm going to try this?
I think just my obsession early on, I think it was like films. And to me, what I found funny was always like slapstick, physical comedy. The best. I mean, armpits, like fart sounds with your armpits, sign me up. I think, it was always a physical, like, Buster Keaton, Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges, people of this era, like that was funny to me, but, nobody knew what that was. And my first introduction to comedy was Spanish speaking. I mean, I didn't have command of the English language till like around the 5th grade, So for me, yeah, I mean, I grew up around all Spanish speaking Mexican people. I was working with my dad. I hung out at home, and like my exposure, even though I'm born here in Long Beach, born and raised, like my exposure to the language wasn't like a thing.
So what was like the Mexican Three Stooges? Oh, the bumblebee on television. Be honest. How often have you had to say, hey, Bert, that's a little racist?
I don't think I've ever said it, but I'm like, I don't think that's accurate, Bert. And then you're like, oh, I get it. It's racist. I'm like, I don't know. I just don't think it's accurate.
Do you remember what the time we were eating Mexican food and you said, I'll get the tortillas. And I went, hey, you don't have to do that. And you're like, what?
And that same restaurant, do you remember on the way there, we were going, it's like, hilarious. So you're like, on the way, there's like, what do you want to eat? Like Mexican food or something? It's like, wait, do you think that's all I eat? and then no, he's like, no, because there's one right here. I'm like, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not a big deal. And then, so we go over there, and I think it looked like it was closed. It was under construction, right? And so we like stepped over this, like they were going to build like this nice decorative like fence thing, and we stepped over. You're like, man, how authentic is this restaurant, huh? I'm like, yeah.
It's been fun working with you because everyone knows when you're a comic you spend all your time, like I'm this more than anyone, but like I have a real, like I need to be around whoever I'm working with almost all the time, like after the shows, before the shows, at lunch, a lot of times go to the gym together. Like, I mean, I'm pretty like needy, I guess is the right.
No, you like a good hang. I think it's the right way of putting it. You like a good hang, you like a good time, and I think you live life by such a way of, hey, let's just have a good time. Like this is a cool gig we got going on, and you're a guy who likes to share the good times, and I'm very grateful for that, for you to take me into your family, your business, and I mean it's been fucking awesome, dude.
But the laugh, I remember the time that you would say, I think it was the same restaurant when I go, enough of the tortillas, and you go, what? And I said, well, I don't know. You put a little spin on it at the end, little
tortillas,
little English, and you go, I'm saying it the way you're supposed to say it. And I went, oh no, I know what you mean. You're like, no, you're actually pronouncing it incorrectly. And I went, oh, that's right. and then that was the same day. Do you remember? I think I might have been drinking, but it was the same day we were doing this joke to each other. Do you remember that?
No. Okay.
We said, I had said, I was saying something I'm sure inappropriate, and I looked over my shoulders, and you go, what if that's the new description? What if that's the new hate crime?
Yeah.
So I'm with this.
It's like, here it comes.
Dude, But the thing I like about you, the thing that I enjoy about you is you like silly.
Yeah, I
You
like
being
silly.
silly.
Yeah, because life is like, I don't know. It sounds a little serious, but it's like life is always, this serious thing. But it's like silliness. It just something cool about it. And I've learned to behave because sometimes it's not well received. But you enjoy my level of silliness, and it's cool, man. It's just a good time. We always have a good time, and yeah, it's like the best, And
One of the fucking hardest I've ever laughed was when you told me the story about you were working with a comedian. I won't say the comedian's name. You can say it if you want, but it doesn't matter. It's not a bad thing. And that comedian had to take a shit after doing radio. And you guys were staying in a hotel that had like 21 floors. And he was on the 20th and you were on the second. And he goes, man, I got a shit so bad. And you are, all right, man, have a good shit. And you hit all the buttons.
I go, I hit all the buttons. And for 2 seconds, I'm like, that is hilarious. And then it hit me when the doors were closing. I'm like, oh no, I messed up.
He's going to shit his pants.
Yeah. And it's stuff like that I'm just like, yeah, it just, comedy now it's different than when I started. When I started, I thought it was like, that was a cool thing, the jackass approach to things. And it's cool for what it is. But, I got into comedy because, I just love making people laugh and sharing my sense of humor, and hopefully people like it. If not, that's okay too. But it's just like, for me, comedy started off as like a defense mechanism that later was channeled into me using my writing and the act outs, my physicality. Everything slowly, I guess, came together. And I'm a slow learner, man. But I'm just happy that everything is kind of coming together now on stage.
What do you think the store, what attribute do you think the store added to you that made you a better comic? And then which thing would you tell a young comic, if you're going to work at the store or if you're going to go through the store system, I would ignore this. You're going to see this a lot and you're going to think, oh, I should do this, but don't. It's a bad habit.
That's a great question, man.
Alexa, shut the fuck up. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Alexa. I think the best thing there is to learn how to just be yourself. I think kind of like Mitzi had this thing of like the stories, like you go up late night, you perform your jokes to basically nobody else. And I think that prepares you for the worst case scenario. When I first started going on the road, doing colleges and that kind of thing, there was nobody in the audience, but I felt comfortable because I learned this skill at the store of going late night to performing to just the people working there. Sometimes just a person in the booth, the comic sitting people. Sometimes I had a few people in the audience. And I think that really taught me not to get phased when there's nobody in the audience and still perform what you want to perform, not being rattled. I think that helped me out tremendously when I started hitting the road. And even when I started doing clubs and I did like one-nighters, and I would have maybe like 15 people there, and on a Wednesday, and I still go up there and do my time and have a good time. And I wasn't really fazed by it, where I think another comic would be like, oh, damn it, there's no crowd. What am I going to do? That, you change your cadence or something. For me, it was like, this is what I'm used to anyway. So
yeah.
So to me, that was great. It taught me, like to me, once I got past, to me, it was like how I ended my night of writing, right? So I would do open mics, I would do whatever book show, but then I knew I had a 1 a.m. spot. So everything I tried, the 2-3 spots beforehand, I'm polishing it off at night at 1 a.m. for 15 minutes. And then I had that recording. And the next day I could listen to that recording and figure out what I needed to change. So process-wise, I think that was the best thing. Now, I think the one thing that I recommend against, if you're considering going into the system of the Comedy Store is to put all your, like, to only do the store. It's like the store is great and it's different now than what it was back then. There's a lot of heavy hitters. There's Rogan, there's you, there's Segura, there's D'Elia, there's Whitney. There's all these guys coming in and crushing, and you got to bring it. So it's like now the dynamic is different. So this advice, I think may not apply anymore, but like there were comics.
Do you think, I mean, not to interrupt you, but do you think you could even do what you did at the store today? I mean, I don't even know if that would work.
I don't know. That's a good question. And I think it's almost like a Malcolm Gladwell-ish kind of situation where it's like, it's the timing at which I started stand-up and allowed me to be at the store at that moment in time. I don't think that could be replicated again. That moment of time where I remember being a door guy and the last person left sometimes, and they're like, "Hey, anyone after 12:45, call them. We're closing early." Or anyone after one.
Do me a favor. Do me a favor. I'm cutting you off a lot. I'm sorry.
No.
Do me a favor. Tell me about, paint the picture, paint the scene of when you started working at the store. Who was there? Who was working? What was the average night like? Who was working with you?
Okay.
How was it? Everything.
So when I started working there, so I got hired by Adam Egget had just started there, right? He was
what year is this?
I guess we can work backwards. I got past September 7th, 2012. So I worked there like maybe 2 to 3 years roughly.
So 2010-ish?
10-ish? Yeah. 10-ish. And
I had 2010. I'm trying to think where I was 2010. Give me a sec. I want to see. I'm going to see in my phone if I got any pictures from 2010. Let's do years. 2000. In 2010. Ready to see what 2010 was for me?
Bert the Conqueror. Wow.
I was doing Bert the Conqueror. George and Isla were that old.
Oh my goodness. That's great.
And I started doing these art installations. What will the maid think? Where I'd leave rooms like this. That was 2010 amazing. For me. Wow, look at this. Look at this, Jesus. Have you ever seen these?
Well, I would totally soil myself if I walked in and saw that.
Look at this one. This was 2010 for me. Me and Rachel Ray went skydiving.
Wow.
God, that's really cool. Actually, that's 2011. So, okay, 2010.
What were they called? What would the maid think?
What would the maid think?
That was your elevator button version days.
Yeah. I was so obsessed with it. I would get to my hotel room at night and I would almost get manic and start creating and start making art installations and then photo taking pictures of them. And I was posting them on Twitter and they weren't getting any reaction, really, because I didn't have any fan base. And then Good Morning America and the Today Show both saw them and posted them. And George Takei posted them. And I didn't get any credit. They never credited me. They said, this guy is, they didn't even credit me. I don't think they even said my name. And I tried to get Travel Channel to get behind it, and Travel Channel was a little embarrassed of it. They're like, this is a bad idea. You're a travel representative, an ambassador of travel, and you're fucking up hotel rooms. But so yeah, that's where I was. George and Isla were little girls. I was doing Travel Channel. I had just started season 2 of Bert the Conqueror, I think. I had just done my special Comfortably Dumb, and you started working at the store.
Yeah, I started working at the store. And
Rogan's still there, right?
No, Rogan was not around during that time. I remember when he came back. Like when Rogan came back, it was like a big deal. Everyone was like, "Oh, Rogan's back." So I only heard about Rogan like being at the store. Like the Rogan days at the store was only things comics talked about.
Yeah.
I remember when he started coming back. I'm working a lot. Tony Hinchcliffe had we overlapped by a very little, like working there. Benji,
so who were the guys that worked with you?
Willie Hunter, Brian Moses, Quincy Weekly, Lucas Earl, Brenton Biddlecombe. So Willie Hunter got hired 3 months before me. And then Brett and Biddlecombe got hired in or around the same time. Who else? Jade was working. Jade Catapretta was working the bar at the time. Yeah, so that was kind of the class that I came up with, and I would just, it's like Danish and O'Neill were hosting, potluck. Tony started hosting potlucks too. Tony Hinchcliffe.
Ari was still living in LA.
Yeah.
And the guys working the club were Steve Byrne, Ahmed,
John
Caparulo.
John Caparulo.
He was still there. That was Joey was Joey doing spots?
No, Joey, I believe came after Rogan. But Renazizi was working the room quite a bit.
Who?
Like Renazizi.
Yeah, Renazizi. I used to play softball or home run derby with all these guys. Mike Young.
Simone, Mike Young.
Simone. And so we would all play softball or home run derby. And so this is when I tried to get in at the store. And Tommy was running the store at the time, and he told me I needed to park cars. And I had a show on Travel Channel. I was like, I'm not gonna go get a side job to get past at a comedy club. I'm just a comic. Right. And he was like, you're not gonna get past then. And so, and this is also the time. See, I'm a little fascinated by this era because this was a little bit when the comedians ran things.
Yeah. Let's see who else was there. Brett Ernst. Brett Ernst, I would see quite a bit there. Yeah, so it was a different era for sure. And me seeing the pop-ins of comics, coming in, and the rooms, like the OR wasn't. I'll put it like this: the main rooms, there was only one main room show a week, and that was Saturday, 8:00, and that's it. Once that was done, it was done. So all throughout the week, that main room was completely dark. Really? It was just upside down chairs in there. Nobody went in there. It was like empty. It was just a belly room. Would have a show a night. Saturday, it was 2 shows in there, and that was a big deal. Wow. And then the OR had the regular OR show as we know it. And during those days, get this, they had potluck twice a week. It was Sunday and Monday. So before I get hired, I would go there and hang out. I would go there and hang out. I hung out there for a year, and that advice was given to me by Steve Trevino. He's like, hey man, you need to go there and hang out for a full year, and rain or shine. He's like, and if you can do that, he basically said, I challenge you to do that. And if you can do that, I think you can get in the store. He's like, if you put in the work, and he was like, the goal should be to get a job there. And I hung out for a year. I mean, I remember showing up, sick on a couple of days, but I still showed up, and that was annoying, because I asked over and over again. I hate asking, it's like, I feel like I'm bothering somebody, and I never want to be that guy, but I don't know why I was comfortable stepping outside of my comfort zone. And
how did you get a job? Did you just go up and say, I would like to work here, or how did that process go?
So for me, I expressed that I wanted to work there. I went up to Tommy. I said, hey, Tommy, I would like to work here. And, he's like, well, you gotta do potluck, and, there's some steps, and you gotta hang out. You gotta do potluck before you're asked. You can't apply for a job here. You gotta be basically tapped to come into the store and work,
So is that how it works? Is that you basically are a comic and you're hanging out doing potluck spots, and then they would say, hey, you're good enough to work the door?
So they approach you. So it's like you do potluck for a while, you're hanging out, they get to know you, but then they approach you and say, hey, do you want to work here? Because you get past the friends and family. So in potluck, the first hour is the open mic, right? That's from 7 to 8. After 8:00, that's when all the employees, friends and family, employees are family, right? And friends are anyone that's been passed to that next level, but don't work there.
Yeah.
So your goal is to get past to the second stage, like the incubating stage of development. And what that meant was you don't have to sign up for the open mic anymore. You get a guaranteed spot on potluck, and you get one development spot in one of the shows in the Comedy Store. You either cold open for somebody's, bringer show or outside promoter show, or you went up at the end where, there was nobody there. But that was a big deal. You got, a 3-minute spot on potluck, and then a 5-minute spot as development, and you did that indefinitely. And then everyone would be passed at their own time. And then once you got passed, you don't have to do that anymore. So now you're not going up on potluck at open mic hour or friends and family. Now you can only get up from the 10:30 hour to 2 a.m., on a Monday.
In the OR.
Yeah, in the OR. And once you're passed, you can call in on Monday, right? And you put in availability for the whole week, and then they'll slot you, wherever they have room for you. And
I just thought to myself, I haven't called in my availabilities in a while.
yeah, we're not gonna call them in for a while, but I mean that place has a system that works. It worked for me. It may not work for the next person. I'm not saying that that's the end all be all, because there's more than one way to skin a cat. But for me,
now there is. Back then there wasn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I mean, you worked at a comedy club. Was there a similar system there?
Say that again.
Bless you. You worked at a comedy club. Did that comedy club back then have a similar way of passing people?
So, by the way, I used to be very firm in assessing that I knew how this worked. All I'll say is I don't really know, and then that's the truth. But I'll tell you my experience is that when I worked the door at the Boston Comedy Club, people had worked before me, but they weren't doing it to become comics. Like I think Neil Brennan worked the door, but he wasn't a comic. He just wanted to be around comedy, I think. I'm not certain. I know Matt Frost worked the door there, but he wanted to be an agent. And then there was a guy named that I remember him. I don't think a lot of people do remember him. His name was Andrew, and he would help Louis Schaefer. Louis Schaefer was the host of the Boston Comedy Club.
Okay.
He would help Louis Schaefer, but he wasn't. He would get spots, but he didn't get spots all the time, and he wasn't. It's unfair for me to say, but he wasn't a comic anyone really respected. And so it wasn't looked at as a path to work the door was not a way to get in. My dad had just instilled in me that humility and hard work go hand in hand. And if you can be humble enough and work hard, people will notice those two attributes. So he got me to work the door. My dad said, asked to do anything, asked to put up chairs, asked to grill burgers. Mm-hmm. I knew that Pete Corielli had grilled burgers at Hamburger Hamlet's and gotten spots. I knew that.
Okay.
And so I was like, and I still to this day very much respect Pete. I think he's an amazing comedian. But back then, I really respected Pete. I wanted to be friends with him. He was just the coolest fucking guy. He still is the coolest guy. But back then, I can't even tell you. Pete Corielli was just a cool fucking dude. And so, I started working the door, and Ben Bailey, Judah Friedlander, and Jordan Rubin pulled me aside and at a bar, I forget the name of it. It's where the Fat Black Pussycat is now. They pulled me aside and they told me that I needed to quit because it wasn't a good idea, that I wasn't going to be looked at. And by the way, once again, everyone's allowed their own truths. I'm just remembering how it happened for me.
Sure.
They said this, it's a bad idea, that people weren't going to see me as a real comic because people didn't see this guy Andrew as a real comic, and that I was funny and I had potential, but this was the wrong way to go about it. Mm-hmm. And I remember just thinking, just like imagine if you're starting a business. I remember thinking the only way you can start a business is to get in the game. And the only way I can get in the game is to get on stage. And the only way I was getting on stage was by doing this. And I thought, I think stage time is king. The more stage time you get, that's the most important. So I did it. And then in working the door, I worked the door 6 months, probably less than 6 months. But 6 months in, technically, I got a development deal from Will Smith. And now working the door was an actual business plan. So guys like Pete Holmes and Pete Holmes is the only one I can really remember because he made a TV show about it. But guys started working the door because it was now a business plan, going, hey, there's a guy that got a deal because he worked at the door. And I remember going back to the Boston Comedy Club. I was with Bill Burr, and Bill was, I think he just moved back to LA or to New York. I was living in LA, but I was back. We were both, I think Bill had been bi-coastal. I was now bi-coastal. And my shirt was off. I was in the back of the club. I was drinking a beer. And this comic came up to me and he said, and there were 4 comics working the door. Yeah. There were 4 comics all barking. Uh-huh. And this kid came back and was like, hey man, you're my hero. You got a deal. By the way, I was 26 years old. I had a TV show. And I had to deal with Will Smith, and I had another deal now at CBS. He's like, "You're my hero, man. Like, I want to do what you did," and that's why I got a job working the door. And I remember I was buzzed, and I thought I should try to kiss this guy, like just to like. I was like, that's like I remember just being like, I was in comedy mode where your brain's like, I should just lean in. Like, I'm sorry, what were you trying to say? But so then everyone started working the door. But when I came out to New York, when I came out to LA, I was out in LA at that time. I was doing spots. Sunday night, Louis Anderson would do a show in the main room, and it was sold out. Roseanne would come down. Dice would come down. Nice. Chris Rock came down. I mean, it was like the fucking hottest show, and I murdered on that show. I became friends with Louis, and I was murdering. I mean, I was killing. I remember the door guys, and I really, really sincerely wish I could remember who they were at the time. I wish I knew who those door guys were. Pulled me aside, and they're like, "You're fucking funny, man. You need to get a job here and start working here." And I remember going like, I remember thinking like, can I skip that? And Louis Anderson's like, "Yeah, you can skip it. Come on, I'll take you in front of Mitzi." And he brought me up in front of Mitzi in the OR, and I did 2 minutes, and I bombed. And Mitzi was sitting back in those seats, which I remember very differently now. I just remember it differently. But she was sitting in those seats where you kind of wait to go do your spot.
Yeah, the bucket seats in the back.
Yeah, the bucket seats in the back. And I went up to her, and all she said is, "You're not ready." And I was like, "Okay." She's like, You need to start hang around the store more." And I went, "Okay." And I was like, "I have kids. I'm not going to hang around the store." But I was like, maybe I'll just get ready. I'll get ready. I'll keep doing spots. It was that whole thing, be undeniable. So I kept doing Louis' show, and I was just killing. And all the door guys at the time, I wish I could remember who it was. I wish I could remember who those door guys were. But they were so fucking cool, man. They were like, they'd pull you. They'd be like, "Dude, you're legit fucking funny." And I remember that's the one thing the store always had. Sam Tripoli came up to me one time. We were working together, and we were doing a National Lampoon's show together, and I didn't know him, and I can't remember who he was with, but he came up to me. He might have been with oh fuck. Anyway, he came up to me and he goes, "Bro, you are fucking funny." And I was like, "Oh, thank you."
I think that's such an important part of a comic's journey when you're at a comedy club and either the elders or the door guys are like, "Hey man, you're funny." That's such a huge dose of like I don't know, just joy. And I was like, okay, I think I'm on the right path. And those guys, for me, I remember it was like Freddie Lockhart, Sam Tripoli. I'm a door guy. And Stephen Kravitz, I don't know if you know Stephen Kravitz. He was one of the outlaws, Sam Kinnison's outlaws, right? And, you know, he would come in and do spots. And I started doing this impression of Stephen Kravitz. And then Freddie Lockhart was like, "Yo, the guy working the back door," this is like right before I started parking cars, he's like, "He has a Stephen Kravitz impression." It's like, no way. And then Tripper was like, "All right, let's hear it," kind of thing. And then I would do it. And you get that laugh, even if it was just, like, "All right, man," whatever. It just meant the world. And cut to, when Stephen Kravitz would go on stage in the OR on Potluck, they're like, "Hey, have Jesus go up there." So as a door guy, they're pulling me from my post and be like, "Hey, go stand on stage and do Dueling Kravitz." And there's as you're describing it, I think it's such a dope thing. And the Comedy Store for years was this like negative, like such a dark place. But I saw the shift where comics were like, if they saw somebody who was doing something good, they'd be like, "Hey man, I respect what you're doing." Kind of like what happened to you. "Hey man, you're funny, man." And it's just like, it gives this energy where like, man, like I really want to get good at this, and I'm working really hard, and I'm flattered that my peers are taking notice.
Yeah, it's interesting because, and I'm going to say this, and I'm sure people will see this, will go, "That's not true, Bert." But New York was not that. For me, in my experience, New York was not celebrating people. It was all about ball busting. So like, I remember the first compliment I got. I remember the first compliment I ever got about any joke ever was from Jim Norton. And I'll never forget that compliment, because I was like, I still very much respect Jim, but man, like, you understand, people don't understand is that when you're starting and you see a guy like Jim who's established and fucking hilarious and one of the best writers in the business, like, Like his writing is bar none, top notch. When he says, "Yeah, I like that joke you did." ... I remember going like, "Oh, thanks." And that joke was in my act for the rest of my life. I was like, I would not pull that joke out. That was my new favorite joke. And then I remember Patrice, but this is the way it worked. Like, and Patrice and I did a show. We had to do, each had to do like 30 minutes, maybe 50. Maybe I did 15. I can't imagine I did 30 minutes.
Okay.
I've been doing stand-up for about a little over a year. And I got booked on a show in Scotland with Patrice, Rich Voss, Ben Bailey, and this guy, Louis Schaefer.
Yeah.
And I had asked my manager at the time, Barry Katz, I said, what do I do? How do I fill 15 minutes? He said, take all your jokes, write them on a piece of paper, and then have that piece of paper on stage and just tell all your jokes. Like, just don't worry about organizing it. Just make sure to tell all your jokes. So we did 2 shows that night. We were filming both of them. And this was to be submitted for Edinburgh.
Okay.
And I did the first show and I kind of bombed. And it was not a great crowd. And I mean, obviously no one was famous. Patrice was not Patrice then. I mean, he was Patrice, but no one knew who the fuck he was at all.
Right.
And I had my little list sitting on the table. And I was going over like this. And Patrice just looked at it. And I was getting ready to go on stage. And as I go to take it and put it in my pocket, Patrice grabs it, crumples it up, and throws it away. And he goes, "Nah." I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "You're not that guy." And I went, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're not the guy with the list on stage." He said, he goes, "Did you write your jokes?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Then just tell them. Just go up and fucking tell them. Don't look and make sure if you can't think of something, say something." I went,
right.
All right. And I went up, I had a great fucking set and I was done with lists forever. I was never, man.
Yeah, when Patrice does it, you're done, bro. No more lists.
Patrice caught me praying. I used to say a prayer. And it was a fucking horrific crowd at the Boston. And so I did a little prayer. I mean, he caught me doing so much shit and he'd pick it apart. There was no celebrating me ever. Yeah. He would pick it apart. One time I said a prayer. I get off stage and he goes, "If I ever see you call God his busy schedule so that you don't fucking eat a dick on stage, I will strike you down." And I went, okay. One time, Jesus, he caught me doing this. I was doing this. I was going like waking my face up. And he goes, "What kind of stupid white boy shit is that?" He goes, "Don't let me ever catch you try to fucking get your energy up to get on stage."
Yeah, and for me, my Patrice O'Neal is Ian Edwards, a dear friend.
Me, man. He just texted me the other day going, "Hey, just checking in on you, seeing how your family is." I got to fucking reply to him.
Yeah,
Edwards is such a great comic, man.
But talk about ball busting. Holy moly. I was so enamored with his comedy that it's like, I remember seeing him at the Laugh Factory in Long Beach and going like, who is this guy? Like, I just started like, I'd see him at the store, I'm hanging out. And so now cut to me working at the store and I'm such a fan. And I'm like, "Hey, Ian." And I go to shake his hand and he's like, "Nah, son. I don't shake." He's like, "I don't shake unpaid regulars' hands." And then he turned around and shake one of my friends' hand. He shook his hand and I'm like, "He's not passed." Like I said, I don't shake unpaid regulars' hand. And he would ball bust me. And I remember the day I got passed, Ian is on that lineup. I still have the lineup when I got passed. So when I do my set as a paid regular, my first one, I go the night I got passed, I go to Ian. He's there, and I go, "Hey man, I'm passed. Can I shake your hand?" He's like, "Hilarious. You still holding on to that?" It was just hilarious. Yeah, it was just like I remember like snapping, like we're ball busting out front in the front patio, and Ian is killing everybody, and then I think I'm big boy, I can hang with the big boy, and I say something on Ian, and he gave me the Ian laughter. Ta-ha. I'm like, "Oh no, it's coming." And I had hair at the time. I had just got a nice haircut, nice and lined up. Feeling like $1 million. I probably had like a new black T-shirt, and I'm waiting for my ass whooping. You know, and he's like, tell me why Jesus has the complexion of a hot black girl, bro. The place erupts. There's people filing out of the front patio. But I mean, it was just that for Ian, it was always like ball busting, and it was
Ian's a New York comic.
Yeah, he's a New York comic. He came up with Patrice, I understand, and you know,
Patrice, Chappelle, all those guys. Ian's like a legit New York. I mean, I say legit, but the like, he was in that group when I started. The guys working were Bobby Kelly, Ian. Like Dave was already like back and forth. Jay Moore was out in L.A. He was doing movies. There was like Jim Norton, Ian, Russ Maneve. It was crazy. You look back and you're like, you look back at those times and you're like, God,
would you do anything different?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
really? No way. Okay, well.
Number one, I wouldn't have spoken as much.
Meaning, like,
I spoke a lot more than I should have, and I talked out of my ass, and I think I gave people a reason. You know, I'm a little oblivious to reading social scenes, so I think I got people to. I was given a lot of stuff very early on in my career. Like I was very, very lucky, and as opposed to putting my nose to the grindstone and being the guy that was like, I don't know.
Well, if I could interrupt a little bit there, yeah. I've heard you say that you've been given stuff and been lucky a few times now. Like during this thing, I personally don't feel that you were lucky. You worked very hard. You know, you set out to do something.
Not even really. Like this sounds silly, but like
subconsciously, you're working towards a goal of being a comedian, and things happen along the way. That's what
I was obsessed with comedy, so that there was no work in it. And I was working as hard as the next guy, meaning we were all trying to get spots. We were all writing every day, all day long. You look at someone like Dimitri Martin and you could actually see, oh, that guy's working hard. Me, it was not, it didn't look like that from the outside. I was working at the door. I got spots at night. I partied it after the shows at the Bag It In. I became friends very quickly with a bunch of with like a lot of comics but like at times there are like, I remember one time, I think it was like Bobby and Patrice and maybe Keith Robinson were out front. And those are guys I would, if I could go back, I would have just, and it worked out fine for me. Sure. I would have shut up a lot more. I would have listened a lot more, as opposed to, I think I felt I was just a little bit younger than everyone. I wasn't a lot younger. So it wasn't like I was 19 years old. I was 25 years old, 26 years old. I was 26 years old when I started. I was also a man and I knew I could fight. So like, there wasn't like I knew I could handle myself as a man. Right. So like, I didn't care a ton. And I had a bunch of really great friends in Florida and I wanted to be friends with everyone, but I would have just shut up and listened a lot more. And I think it would have, like, I remember they were always going to be the class above me, like Bobby, right. Jim, Voss. They were always going to be the class above me. But like, I put myself into a situation to just look like a jackass a bunch, which is who I am naturally, is a little bit of a jackass. Like I remember the perfect example was, I remember they were all sitting out front. Bobby, I think it was Bobby, Keith, and Patrice. And I just got my deal with Will Smith. And Barry Katz told me, get information, do not give information. Never give anyone any information in this business. Always get it. Number one, if you tell them, they think you're already making more money than you are. So if you tell them how much you're making, it's not going to impress them. They already think it's $500,000. Don't tell them what it really is.
Right.
And Patrice, I got a deal, and Barry said, do not tell anyone you have a deal. Don't tell a soul. But there was a part of me, I mean, if we're going to be 100% fucking honest, and I pride myself at least on these types of honesty, is like as best. I was still working the door, and I had a deal with Will Smith, and that these guys didn't see me as like a real comic when I had a deal, which is what everyone wanted, was the deal.
Right.
And I think it was just the fact that I thought I should be, that I was better than I was, and I wasn't. I was not. funnier than any one of those guys I just mentioned at all, even remotely. I've been doing stand-up 6 fucking months, literally 6 months. But in my head, I thought, I've gotten stamped by Hollywood. I got a deal. I'm legit. You guys need to take me serious. And so I walked up, and I don't know how they knew, but I walked up and they go, so you got a deal? And I went, yeah. And I remember Barry saying, don't tell everyone no. Lie. Don't never give information. And I went, yeah. And then Patrice said, how much? I said, I don't know. And he goes, no, you know how much. And I said, I don't know. Now they're all sitting out there, and Patrice goes, I'm going to guess, and I can see it in your eyes if I'm right. And I went, no, you can't. And he goes, $125,000. And I went,
He saw it in your eyes.
he guessed it right away. I mean, he guessed, it's busting my balls. They're like, man, that's not a lot of money. That money goes quick. You can't move to LA with that money. Man, we thought we'd get more. And then they're like busting my balls. We thought it was $500,000. Patrice, how much? And he goes, 125. 125. You buy a car, you no longer make 6 figures. I mean, they fucking destroyed me. And the thing is about me, not to talk about myself in the third person like this, but I don't mind that. I don't mind the laughter as long as it's funny and it's not cruel. I'm all about busting balls. I loved it. I love the attention, really. Yeah. But I think if I would go back, I would have taken the approach of a guy like Kevin Hart or Mike Birbiglia or these guys that Bill Burr, Greg Giraldo, who they weren't as much of a jackass. Like they got a deal and they didn't need to go to the club and be proven. They knew that their worth was within themselves internally. I remember Bill was the only one. He said, don't tell anyone about your deal. I'd already told everyone. Everyone already knew about my deal. Bill was like, don't tell anyone about your deal. He goes, the only person you should tell is Esty. He said, go up to Esty tonight. Tell her, listen, I just signed a development deal with Will Smith, and you can get spots. He goes, Esty and Lucian. He ran, and he said, and then the guy that ran New York Comedy Club, or not New York, stand-up New York. He was like, they don't know about the business like that, so you got to kind of inform them that you're working. He's like, don't feel shy to tell them, but don't tell any of these comics. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I've already told everybody. So I think, but for whatever reason, it's worked, I guess.
But you didn't replicate that situation again. Like, come the second, third, fourth, fifth deal. I mean, you took that advice. Sometimes.
No, I think I still told everyone. You know how much money I make. Like for whatever reason, I'm a fucking low self-esteem having motherfucker where it's like, it's like.
It is what it is, but at the end of the day, it's those things that make you special and why so many people gravitate towards you. There's not that line thing in you, and you are who you are, and you're unapologetically like who you are. You're comfortable. It's like your strengths, your weaknesses, and it's like take me for I am or move on. That's what makes you great, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately you look back and you go, I wouldn't do anything different, but I wouldn't mind. I'll always be, as long as I live, I will always be a young comic. In my head, I'm always a young comic. Like, I remember even getting to the store and being like, feeling not worth being, I didn't deserve to be on stage. I remember feeling that way. Like, I don't deserve to be here. I haven't earned it. Like, even though I'd been doing stand-up my whole adult life, and I just, like, I'm obsessed with stand-up. I write nonstop, like, for the way I write, I keep a pen and paper with me, and I'll write down 1 words, or I'll write it into my phone. I still don't believe I deserve it. I remember Dalia one time telling me how funny I was, and I was like, oh, I wonder what part he saw. Like, I remember defending him liking my stand-up.
Interesting. People
told me they like my last special, and I just go, they just say that. Like, I just have a hard time taking compliments, or at least feeling worth. And I think maybe what you're saying is accurate, is that I do that, and that is what defines me, and that's why I work harder, because I'll never be good enough. Like, I'll never be good enough in my head. Like, it's like, it's funny, you've been watching The Last Dance?
I haven't. I gotta get with it.
Oh my God. And
I hear it's great.
It's really good. one of the I mean, obviously everyone's, but one of the crazy things that's in there that I notice in myself is Michael Jordan will make up any story to motivate him. It doesn't need to be real. He will make it up to motivate him. Man, I do that, but in a different way where I get motivated. I think people are talking shit about me, about how bad I am. And I go, I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna bust when I bring out this joke, they're gonna be like, God damn, Bert really is not just a one note. Like, it's funny, you read one thing online and then that defines the way you work. Some kid goes, you're just some drunk alcoholic who rips his shirt off and tells the same story every night. And my thing was like, no one will ever see me tell the same hour, like ever. I'll do it. You'll see it once. And obviously I think they say that because there are kids that don't know anything about this business, or at least have their own idea what this business is about, whether or not I should tell the machine story. But it's like, in my head, I go, and I think I do that too. I make up dialogues to motivate myself.
Yeah. Using that energy to motivate. But it's like, as comics, I think we are our own worst critics. And, it's like when people say mean things to us, it's like, you think that really hurts? I mean, I may use it and dwell on it, but it doesn't really hurt because there's nothing I haven't said to myself already about my act, my person. I mean, we are our own worst critics, and to make up a story and use it to motivate us is like, how do we get to where we want to go if we don't do stuff like that? It's like, if we don't motivate each other, like if we don't motivate ourselves, who will? Nobody else would, So
yeah, I look at you want to know something so fucked up?
What happened?
No, that is just a thought, and I'll share it. Hopefully, it's not too bad. But you know that dude, Richard Bain, passed away.
I did not know him.
Yeah, we were texting. I think he was Shane's roommate.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Do you do this when a guy passes away? Mostly whenever it's like horrible, you go into their Twitter, and then if they don't follow you, part of you is like, maybe I could have saved it.
No, I don't think I do that.
That's the joke I wrote this morning. He didn't follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. And I was like, God damn it. I wonder why. Like, we have all the same friends. Like, why didn't he follow me? Did he not like my act? Like, how the fuck, Hilarious. What did he think about my act?
Hilarious, bro.
Yeah, dude, my brain is...
Look, we're comics because our brains is like, our brains usually shoot to the worst part or, make some awful joke. But that's why we do what we do, It's like, comics get in trouble for saying XYZ joke. It's like, imagine what doesn't make it out. Imagine what stays in the mental draft folder of bits. It's like, whew.
Dude, what makes me laugh is horrible shit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
same.
And especially like, I talked to Bill about this the other day. Let's get back to you and your special, because Bill said something, if you're not making yourself uncomfortable or challenging yourself on stage, and sometimes it'll take 2 weeks just to do something uncomfortable every time for 2 weeks on stage. And then you get better at it. And then 2 weeks in, he's like, all of a sudden I can do act outs. What's something that you want to add to your next hour where you go and do it this way? It's because it's more easy to wrap your head around something someone else does. Like, I think I've told you, I would love to be able to do act outs like Sebastian, not as high level, but like just add a little bit. That the one joke I've been working on trying to figure it out. What's something that you see in like a great comic where you're like, I want to be able to do that more?
I think I'd like to dissect like a premise, like every which way more. Like I feel like in the past I've been more surface, and I like to do more act outs. But like when I look at a guy like Chappelle, like he really, like he's walking down the street and he flashes a flashlight down every alley. And at least you see it. He may not go down it, but the flashlight has been pointed in that direction, and he moves forward with his train of thought, his critical thinking, And it's like, I don't know if I could think at that level, but it's like I would like to attempt to try to dissect something, like think about something like critically. It's like I talked about my family already, and I think I told you this on the tour bus. It's like this first special is autobiographical. I talk about how I grew up, my family, and that kind of thing. But moving forward, I want to talk about other things, expand. Like I remember hearing an interview by Brian Regan, And he said, as soon as people try to pinpoint me and be like, oh, Brian is an act out guy, Brian is this guy, he switched up on the following special. And I think looking at Brian Regan, he's one of my top. I mean, he's one of my top comics I look up to, and JB Smooth is another one. And it's like, if I can land somewhere between the two, in my timeline, doing comedy, I think I would be very excited. So moving forward, I think I want to be able to dissect just like premises more in depth than, leave it on the surface. Because I was able to dig in deep with, my family and make it a one-man show-ish. But I would like to, do something like that. But also, and I think I told you this on the tour bus too, is like my love for comedy was one-liners. Stephen Wright, Dimitri Martin, Mitch Hedberg, you name it. So it's like I want to do more of that. It's like sprinkle them in, but dissect the premise further. So that's what I would like to do.
I would love to be able to. I'm having a hard time writing right now.
Well, it's hard. Our workflow has been disrupted with this whole thing. So I think it makes it harder to write right now.
I feel like I'm super backed up. Like I go, I'll tell you what I wrote. This is the last thing. You know what I've been writing down a lot lately? It's weird. Like whenever I hear something, I go, I write down, like I just go, I find that funny. Like I heard rare flower hunters the other day. And I just thought that was hilarious. Like there are rare flower hunters. And then I pictured what a rare flower hunter looked like in my head. And it was super romantic. Like it was like badass dude going in, leather jacket, hat, And it's not. It's a lot of overweight older women are rare flower hunters. Oh, that's the tour.
Is that the new bit that you're working on right now?
No, that's not even bits. Like, so right now I feel like I just have an idea that's funny, and I go like I wanted to do the Orgasm Challenge. Like, how fun would it be if you just saw a TV show called the Orgasm Challenge, and it was just celebrities having orgasms? Like, and you raise money for it, but it's like they videotape themselves having an orgasm. And you were like, you got to see like legit, like it would be so much better of a talk show if you're like, ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is Gal Gadot, and she sits on the chair, and then surgically or medically you induce an orgasm, and you just see no questions, you just sit and you just watch someone have an orgasm.
Watch, yeah,
it'd be fucking amazing,
yeah,
and just to watch, just to get Jack Black and see him just be like. Oh, like myself, I was really, this is the one premise I wrote. I'm more liberal when I dream. Like I'm a liberal guy, but man, I am liberal as fuck in my dreams. And I thought, so that's the real test. Like, what if we could go into people's dreams, right, and had access to their dreams, and they're like, yo, man, in your dreams, you're saying the N-word nonstop. Is there something you want to share with us? Like, I've never said the N-word in a dream. And I was like, that really, I've said it more in real life than I sing it all the time. I've never said it in a dream. Never once said it in a dream.
Hilarious.
Yeah, so that's where I'm not writing enough right now.
I wrote this bit, not this bit, this idea of like, there's a happy birthday song when somebody is like born and, you get reminded every year, but I don't think there's anything to sing when somebody's no longer here with us. There's no universal song. It's like, we're going to miss you so much. We're going to miss you so much. There's somebody that doesn't know, David, we're going to miss you so much, and have, the next.
It would be a great way to tell someone died.
Grandmother.
If I was like, what's up, Jesus? You're like, how you doing? You're like, we're gonna miss you. And you're like, oh, fuck, who died? You're like, so much. Hold on. Wait till I get to the name. We're gonna
David.
We're gonna miss you, Dave Williamson. You're like, oh shit, Dave died.
We need next in kin to blow out the candles. Grandmother, come on over. You can make a wish, just not that one. Go for it.
Oh, that's great.
So I don't know, just to keep me busy. But yeah, all we can do is just write, man. And I'm excited to get back out there and start working towards my next hour, hopefully, if that's a thing moving forward. But I think I'm excited for this special. I mean, I've seen you work.
What's crazy is I've seen you work the majority of material, but not all the material. Like a lot of this stuff is just when you headline stuff. Like when you go out on the road, you're only doing like 15, 20 minutes. So it's not the full hour. So I'm excited to see this special.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm really excited, and it's like I'm very grateful for everyone that's looked out for me and rooted me on, gave me opportunities.
Tell the stories real quick of like and this is like a weird humble brag, but not a humble brag for me. It's not about me, but like tell me what a great guy Russell Peters is. I know what a great guy is. I know this story, but I think not enough people know this.
Yeah, I Russell's such a great guy. He was one of the guys who I met through Eleanor Kerrigan. Eleanor had introduced me to him. I was working a lot, and I met Russell. Got to meet him there. I parked his crazy Rolls Royce that he had at the time, and he was working Irvine that particular weekend when Irvine was coming up, and he's like, he didn't know I was a comic. He thought I just parked cars, and then Eleanor was like, "Oh no, he's a comic." He's like, "Oh, cool," and then he was just very kind, and he gave me an opportunity that was, earlier than, I wasn't ready for this opportunity of hosting. I didn't have 15 minutes, so, but he was kind. He just, Russell's that guy. He's like, "Hey man, come on out, do your thing." And I went out there and I hosted for him, and he let me work with him the whole week, and he ended up buying me a cell phone. And he bought me a cell phone and a laptop because he saw me pull out my laptop. He's like, "Oh, come on, man." He's like, what is that?" I'm like, "A laptop." And then a cell phone. And he's like, and I remember he said, he's like, "Look, you need certain basic tools to stand a chance in this business. And, how can you stand a chance at competing in this business when you don't have the basic tools?" And, he gave me those things. And he was like, "Hey, man, just, work hard, and I'm sure you'll pay it forward one day." And, he's like, "I know you're a hardworking dude, so, keep working hard, and, you'll get to where you want to be." And I still have the laptop, I still have the laptop. And it's just like, it's crazy. But there's been so many people like Russell that have been so generous. Yourself, I'll never forget Leanne and you buying me the jacket because I went on the road with you. I'm like, "Oh yeah, this jean jacket would be perfect for Canadian blizzard storms." And you guys came out with this down jacket, which I don't like. You didn't have to do that, but you guys are so kind, and I hope to pay it forward. And I mean, there's been so many people like that along the way. Even Steve Trevino. I mean, he did so much. He taught me the ropes. I was at, I would go to his house and eat. Before I would go to the Comedy Store, and he gave me so much. He helped out my parents. And Steve Byrne, put me on Sullivan and Son. That was my first time that I was on a sitcom. And there's been so many, like Ian Edwards too. He's helped me out a bunch. And I say all that to say this, that this special is just a reflection of, like, nobody does it alone. This is a very lone wolf sport of stand-up. We write the jokes, we go on stage, we get behind the wheel, drive hours to do minutes of stand-up. And I don't know that anyone is able to do an hour special alone. It's a culmination and the help of a lot of people. It takes a village to raise a kid. It's a village of comedians who are giving and give unconditionally and help each other. There's competition, but at the end of the day, we do come together and help our own. And I mean, this is a reflection of everyone who sacrificed. Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy when you think about it. I forgot about the jacket. But I loved the story of Russell Peters saying, if you're going to stand a chance in this business.
Yeah.
I think that I remember hearing that and going, I know Russell's a great guy. I know how generous he is. But when you hear that story, you just go, that's a fucking great guy. Like,
yeah.
I always love hearing that story. It seems like a laptop's such an extravagant purchase, but for someone like Russell, who's, obviously done so well in this business, he looks at it and goes, it's not going to break me, and it could help this guy get to the next level.
And it did so much. I mean, it's like that's how I would write stuff. That's how I would film an audition, and send it, and have email, and have a work project. There were so many things in this laptop that it's like, yeah, it's like he really set me up to get to where I'm going. I just have to put in the hard work behind it. And yeah, and also in the special, I wanted to share this with you. I ended up using the logo, the animated logo. So when we were in the tour bus, I had the iPad and I animated the logo. I had to do the company like for the special at the end of it, and I drew the pigeon because I named my company Fat Pigeon Inc. I drew the logo and I animated it, and man, I gotta tell you, Bert, I am so proud. Like they're putting it's in the special. Like that's probably the most proudest thing in that special, that I was able to draw, animate, name my company, and I put it at the end. It's a Fat Pigeon Inc. production. It's like, dang it, I can't tell you. I was so excited. And I even showed you like a little kid. You were getting ready for the show. You're doing, business stuff. I'm like a little kid. Hey, Bert, look what I drew. You're like, oh yeah, so it's totally cool. And then like for the thing, you're like, oh wow. It's like, you did that. And yeah. It was like so cool I did it in your tour bus, and it was I'm pretty fucking proud of that drawing, man.
You're really good at that shit. Like that, you're really good at that.
So we'll see. I mean, it's just I'm excited. I get to do what I love and work with good people and grateful for everyone that's looked out for me, man.
Well, dude, I'm so happy for you. I can't wait to see it. I'm gonna watch it with Leanne. Leanne loves you, so that'll be her favorite of this quarantine. I can guarantee. And I mean, I hope selfishly I get to get back out on the road with you soon. But
hopefully,
I also hope that you just do your own fucking thing, and I can't work with you ever again because you're that fucking funny.
Oh man, thank you, man. Thank you and Leanne, you guys are great. Thank you for looking out for me, and yeah, thank you for this opportunity being on your podcast. Thank you, man.
Of course, brother. I love you, man. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you very soon. You know that.
Okay. Take care. Yes, sir. All right. Bye.
I'll see you later, Jesus. Congrats, brother.
Thank you, bro. Bye.